A mistake a lot of people make when they read 1984 for the first time, and I know I'm in that category as well, is thinking it's a political satire or an exaggeration or a polemic. That is, the book is taking stuff that happens in the real world, particularly under totalitarian regimes, and exaggerating it in order to very clearly show what it is. The reality, though, is it's really not an exaggeration. Even the most absurd, crazy things that happen in the book happen pretty much the same in real life, including the seemingly unrealistic timelines. Now, perhaps the most well-known scene within the book, other than I Love Big Brother, is a scene where Winston is at a patriotic rally. So you have the three superstates in 1984, Oceania, Eastasia, and Eurasia. And at the time of the rally, Eurasia and Oceania are at war with Eastasia. Now, the government decides that they're going to shift the alliance structure, so halfway through the rally, they change it so that they're allied with Eastasia and at war with Eurasia. And no one even recognizes that there's been this sudden switch. If anything, what they say is, oh, it's a conspiracy. We've always been at war with Eurasia. We never had positive thoughts towards Eurasia. We were never allied with Eastasia. None of that actually happened. That's a conspiracy theory. You're insane. And nobody has the basic commitment to truth or even the short-term memory to recall that like 5 minutes ago, they were praising Eurasia and damning Eastasia. And once again, the first time you read this, you're like, oh, this is an exaggeration of how a figure from the past, particularly maybe someone from the colonial era or the imperial era, might have been a hero back then, but now is condemned today as being evil. And just how different societies in different time periods view their heroes and view different actions in different ways. That's not the truth at all. The actual point they're trying to make is people are that stupid that you can actually completely change something over the span of 5 minutes. And the average person, because they have no internal dialogue or they've just been raised on the media or whatever, is literally incapable of perceiving this. And you can do it to them, and you can do it any number of times. So it's actually a lot scarier than it appears on the first basis. So I have a very good example of this that I think proves this point better than just about anything. And that is the recent acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk, which is one of the biggest we've always been at war with Eurasia moments, I think, in my lifetime. So before we get into it, I just have one other I guess, sociological digression. In the Pacific, I guess the Pacific Ocean, you have a concept called the cargo cult. So there's a couple different meanings of this. The first one is you have these primitive, uncontacted or barely contacted tribes, and something washes ashore, plastic or metal or something advanced that they've never seen, and they start worshiping it as a deity. During World War II, you had a lot of cases where Americans or Japanese or British soldiers would set up bases on these islands, and these uncontacted peoples would see these people with guns, with military drills, with airplanes and stuff like that, and they'd think they were gods, and they would just kind of pass out things like blankets that they could never build because they're machine weaved, food, stuff like that, and when they left, the people there took the various components that they left behind and they tried to reenact what they were doing, tried to rebuild stuff. Basically, they wanted them to come back. They had been exposed to this thing for the first time, and their immediate response was to worship it and build their civilization around it. And you have this concept of the liberal cargo cult, where they will just find someone, be it Aung San Suu Kyi or Barack Obama or Martin Luther King or whoever the guy of the moment is, and they will worship him, and they will build their entire worldview and their entire identity around them as this millenarian figure who's going to save them. And this is what brings us to kind of Elon Musk, and we're going to bring the two ideas together. Elon Musk was, for a lot of liberals, a cargo cult. owning a Tesla was the ultimate status symbol for the upper middle class, for urban nouveau riche, for yuppies, if you will. If anyone remembers, just a couple months ago, Elon Musk was seen as this messianic millenarian figure who was going to show up through Tesla. He was going to end global warming. Through Blue Origin, he was going to make Star Trek real. He was going to allow us to upload our brains into computers. We were going to have like the nuclear powered tunneling machines that were going to connect America with high speed rail. You had all these hopes that were placed in Elon Musk. And a lot of liberals, like I said, saw him as this secular messiah that was going to bring us into the world of Star Trek, into this postmodern technological utopia with self-driving cars, where every man was a king, where everyone was immortal and hooked up to computers. And everyone was just posting quotes of him and saying he was the greatest guy ever, and dissing NASA and just saying, oh, Elon Musk is going to save the space industry. Elon Musk is going to save the car industry. I mean, let's not include that most of his businesses are just based on subsidy farming or extremely expensive. I know from my experience, at least at the current place I work, owning a Tesla is the ultimate status symbol there. There is a culture that if you don't aspire to own a Tesla and you're not willing to spend your life savings and go into debt to get one, then you're an inferior being. You're not part of the cool kids club. And I've noticed that that's completely changed over the space of like 2 weeks. Now Elon Musk is evil. He was always evil. No one ever liked him. No one ever placed any of these hopes in him. He's this satanic antichrist figure because he purchased Twitter and he didn't want as much censorship. Allegedly, I'll believe it when it actually happens. And of course, the disturbing thing that 1984 points out is the vast majority of these people don't even recognize it. They can go back and they can look at their timeline from 2 weeks ago, how they were praising Elon Musk as being the South African Jesus, other than Nelson Mandela, the white South African Jesus, not the black South African Jesus. But now, like, they can look back on that and they just won't remember it. They'll just say, look, he's always been this evil billionaire. And you see, like, what Robert Reich and all these other people are saying, like, oh, the tech companies have too much power. Twitter can't be owned by a billionaire, even though it was, and all this other stuff. And they are incapable of seeing that any of this is contradictory. And it's not something that's shifted over years or over generations or as a result of an education system that's kind of targeted impressionable young minds. It's literally like a week. And that is very much the nature of the liberal cargo cult, is they will attach themselves to this person, and at the first sign of disagreement, they will call them the Antichrist, and they will drag them through the mud. Now, this is kind of unrelated, but there is a conservative cargo cult, which is where they will latch on to whatever based minority of the week happens to agree with them. So that's like where you get based black man or based Asian man or based Korean or something, where they'll find like the minority that gives them like to be their black friend or something, and then they'll latch onto them. I think Larry Elder is probably the best example of this, where he was held up as this messiah who was going to save California. Ben Carson was also like this, although I personally like Ben Carson. I think he's a good guy. Nikki Haley, Bobby Jindal, whatever minority they can find that agrees with them at that time, they become a cargo cult. The biggest difference is I don't think conservatives throw their people under the bus. They might not make them their like leader anymore, but they don't really shit on them the same way liberals do. But yeah, Elon Musk, he by legitimately buying a platform that was already controlled by tech billionaires, he somehow betrayed everything. Now owning a Tesla isn't aspirational anymore. It'd be interesting to see what percentage of people try to sell them off and if the price of them just goes way down. Like, I know people who spent years on waiting lists because they wanted a Tesla so bad, because it was their thing. It was what was going to make them go up from being upper middle class to being, I don't know, urban elite or something like that. I mean, like, to be honest, I don't have any issue with being aspirational, with wanting to build up your net worth, with wanting to own things. Stuff like that I think is all good and makes you a productive individual. But it's kind of like with Apple iWatches. If your entire, like, self-esteem and world opinion of yourself is based on owning an Apple iWatch or a Tesla, that's really bad. And if you place that above, like, for a lot of these people, it's like, would you rather achieve salvation and make it to purgatory or heaven, or have a Tesla? And I think a lot of these people would just say, I want a Tesla. But now they don't want a Tesla anymore, because Elon Musk isn't secular Jesus anymore. He's secular Satan. And all the people of years said billionaires can spend their money however they want. They can do anything what they want with their money, are now like, well, Elon Musk can't engage in a legitimate deal and legally purchase a company using his own money. That can't be allowed. That's bad. We don't like capitalism now. I mean, granted, we liked it when Occupy Wall Street got thrown under the bus and these companies all became woke, but it's just, there's no ability within these people to self-reflect. I think it comes down to the sin of pride, to be honest, because there's no sin more powerful or more insidious. I mean, it's the reason that Satan fell from heaven, is because of his pride. It's also, I think, the only sin that's uniquely human. You can find most sins in the animal kingdom. They're very common: greed, gluttony, lust, anger, stuff like that. You can all see. I think the conception of pride, though, is uniquely human. And I think this is a good example of it, and the insanity that it can drive you to. So, as I kind of get older, it's funny, because when I was young, I used to just, my motto used to be truth above everything. I just want to know what's true. I don't want any of the fake stuff. And then I kind of became more cynical. I didn't like that. But as I become older again, I just can't stand the fake stuff. That's my issue with it. I wish people would say, look, Elon Musk buying Twitter means that people I don't like are going to have an opinion, and I don't want them to, because I want my liberal democracy and I want it enforced by the police state, by private companies. Like, just say that. Don't pretend there's any higher principle there. Or just say, what I want is so morally good that it's worth whatever the level of repression it is that allows it to continue. But they won't, because they're dishonest. And I don't really, once again, I don't have an issue with them, other than that what they believe in is evil, of the idea that you can use state power or corporate power or whatever to suppress people who disagree with you. But I don't like lying about it. I don't like it being fake and G-slur. So that's my opinion on the matter. I hope that was an interesting video. God bless, and try to persist in the faith, ladies and gentlemen. It's a rough time out there.